Bonjour et bienvenue à Gourmet, the channel where I use my cookbooks that I own and have never used. This week, we are still working with Mastering the Art of French Cooking by Julia Child, where we'll be making Côtes de Porc sauce Nanette, or pork chops with mustard cream and tomato sauce. um, really, we're just in this big meat chapter right now. That's why there's kind of been a few of these different kinds of like meat recipes all in a row. That's kind of the way the book's laid out. That was my oven preheating. But yeah, I'm excited to try this one. So let's get started. So to begin this recipe, I've been kind of marinating these pork chops in the fridge for a while. I just salt and peppered them, but they've been resting in the fridge for a couple hours now. What we're going to do is we are going to take some ghee. I just bought this from Publix. And we're going to go ahead and put it in the pan. I realized I forgot to bring over a spoon. We're just going to put some ghee in the pan just because we're sauteing these guys real quick. So I'm just going to give this ghee a stir. That said, you could use really any kind of fat. But I know the ghee will withstand the heat, and that's what we're looking for. So these pork chops, like I said, they've just been sitting. I'm going to get this pan really hot. Once it's hot, we'll put these pork chops on and get the cooking started. Here we go with our pork. I'm just going to do 2 at a time. I just think, you can kind of see where the burner is. But yeah, we're just doing 2 of these at a time. And what we're really doing is browning. They're going to go ahead and cook in the oven. But we're kind of preparing them before they cook all the way in the oven. So let's watch some pork cook, I guess. That's a lie. Let's be honest. I'm not gonna make you watch this. It's so boring. Okay. So we've just got finished browning all of our pork chops. The recipe says to salt and pepper them and season them with thyme or sage. And then you pour the fat out of the casserole, add in more butter, and then reheat them till they're sizzling and put them in the oven that way. We're kind of doing this a little differently because I just use straight up butter to begin with. And I'm not basting them with butter like I said. I'm just adding more ghee on top. It doesn't hurt. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to add a little bit of thyme. These guys are super hot, but I do have the burner turned off, so it eventually will cool down. But I'm just going to add on some thyme to these guys, like it suggests. And then we're going to add in a couple garlic cloves. Now, these are supposed to be halved, but this was a giant garlic clove. So, we're just going to put a couple on top of these guys. I'll throw that one in the middle. And then I'm going to go ahead and throw these guys. I'm going to cover this. We're going to throw these in the oven at 325 for about 30 minutes. While our pork chops cook, we're going to go ahead and start the cream mustard tomato sauce. What we need is 1.5 cups, 1.5 cups of whipping cream that I'm opening now because I forgot to open it. I'm just using like a Publix heavy whipping cream. I know that a heavy whipping cream and regular whipping cream are a little different, but I'm not gonna lie, I prefer heavy whipping cream. So here we go. And there's our 1.5 cups. I guess I'll throw this in the sink real quick. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this on our burner. We're going to add some salt and pepper in here real quick. It says a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a pinch of pepper. You know how I feel about some of the flavorings in this. And I did kind of have the revelation a while back that it might be because people we're used to more so seasoning their own food, and nowadays, like, we expect it to be a little more seasoned to us, but I can't tell you if that's true or not, or if I'm just making things up in my head. But I'm going to go ahead and grab a spoon. So we've got our cream, our salt, our pepper in here heating up. I'm just going to give this a quick stir. And it says that we're going to simmer this for 8 to 10 minutes. So I have a timer on up top. I've got this kind of low. And I guess I'll see you when this is done simmering and we're ready for the next step. Cream has been simmering for just about 10 minutes. We've gotten it down to just about a cup of cream per the recipe. So what we're going to do is get ready for the tomato mustard part of this sauce. In this other bowl here, I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. We all know I'm not really measuring it. Oop, that was a piece of fuzz. I'm just using, this is the tomato paste I'm using. It's just this like Cento. I don't actually know how to say it, but it's the one that I always buy. I really like it. It's a nice tomato paste. I guess maybe that's a little more than 2 tablespoons, but I'm going to call that there. And then we need a tablespoon of dry English mustard. Now, I don't really know what that means, but this Coleman's mustard is what I'm using. I don't know I still have not figured out which way on the camera goes. I don't think it's that way. I think you can't even see it. I don't know if you can see the tomato paste. Here's the tomato paste I'm using. Here's the mustard. Like I said, this Coleman's mustard, I think maybe that's upside down. So maybe this is the right way. I don't know. That feels right, maybe. But we need just a tablespoon of this. I don't know why this camera is so hard to figure out. But I'm going to go ahead, plop in that amount, and I'm going to say that that was about a tablespoon. Okay, I guess I'll put this to the side. We're not going to need the mustard again. And then we're just supposed to whisk these together. And now what we're doing is we're going to add, oh, it got a little film, that's okay, our hot cream into here. And I'm just going to go ahead and pour all of it. Our burner's off. And then we're just whisking this together. And then we're going to be able to set this aside for the last like 15 minutes or so that the pork chops are cooking. Because this is going to go into the deglazed pan and it's going to become our sauce. So I'm interested in this. We'll see how it goes. Now, before we do this, nope, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Nope, this sits to the side. This is such an easy recipe that I feel like I'm missing something, but honestly, I like that it's kind of easy. We've had some like longer ones in a row. It's just so far I'm not complaining. I'm just thrown off by how easy it has been. But here's our sauce. We're gonna set that to the side, and I will see you guys when the pork chops are ready. Here we are. So we've just taken our pork chops out of the oven. What we're gonna do is go ahead and get ready for the sauce. So I am just going to take these guys off, put them on this plate over here. Oops. Somehow that was so much harder than I thought. What I'm going to do is I am going to scoop some of this out, just because I think this is quite a bit of fat and juices for the sauce that we want. I don't know for sure, but I know we used more butter than what the recipe called for. So I'm just kind of gonna take some of this off. This is a non-stick pan. It's not, it's not the casserole Julia Child would have, but I'm using what I've got that'll fit these guys. And I'm just trying to take out a couple tablespoons. Well, we're probably more than a couple tablespoons in at this point. Okay, I'm going to call that there. We'll go ahead and turn this on, because what we actually need to do now is deglaze the pan. So it's still hot from the oven. And it says to remove all but 2 tablespoons of the fat, but we removed as much as we could. Now I'm going to add in a half cup of vermouth. It's the same vermouth we used in the other recipe. So I'm just going to add in, let this get hot maybe a little bit more to where it's like bubbling a little more. And then I'm going to add in a half cup of this. And we're just going to eyeball that. Okay, I'm going to call that a half cup. I'm going to go ahead, give our cream mixture that's been sitting just a quick stir. And then what I'm actually going to do is bring it in here and stir in the vermouth and kind of try to lightly scrape off some of the brown goodness from the pork. It has a name, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name every time I go to do this step, and I don't know why. But I'm just going to let that simmer for a little while. We are trying to cook off the alcohol. It says boiling rapidly until you have about a half cup of the sauce left, which that's what we added in. So I don't really understand that part, but we are just going to keep going. Let some of that alcohol cook off. You know what? It doesn't say to, but I think I'm going to add in the garlic pieces back. I'm just picking them off, but I think this will taste good. Kind of get them back in the sauce, get a little more flavor. You can see they're so soft, they just kind of break up. Which I think that's going to be delicious too. So our sauce is going to be a little different, but I don't see why you wouldn't want to do this step, honestly. It smells great. I can tell you that right now. This smells fantastic. I'm just going to let this boil for a little bit longer. And then I'm going to turn down the heat, because what we're going to do is we're actually simmering in the cream. So I'm turned down the heat just now. I think we're good to go. Give this one last good stir. Try to get as much out of the bowl as possible. Come on. There we go. And then I'm just going to whisk this in. And then we're supposed to simmer this for 3 to 4 minutes. And I have to say, this smells absolutely fantastic. This smells so good. I'm really excited to try this. So here is our sauce. I'm going to go ahead, call it here. I've gone ahead and turned off the burner. What we're going to do now is we're going to add in some basil. So I just bought some fresh quote unquote fresh basil. It's not the best package, but they only had so much. I guess it was grocery restock day or something. But what I'm going to do is roll, it's just fresh basil, and then I have these herb scissors, and I'm just kind of going to, they don't work always the best, but they're also easier than doing all of this by hand. Throw that out, and then you just got to go in with your hands a little bit and take out the ribbons. We only needed 2 tablespoons, and that's about what we have. So I'm going to go ahead, stir this in. Now you could have used parsley or chervil, it says, but I wanted basil. I thought basil would be pretty good with this. Here we go. You can see that the sauce got a lot thicker. But I'm going to go ahead and plate this, get this all ready for the camera, and I'll be back with the review. Here we are. So this is our final plate. Now, probably what I'm going to really do is throw some vegetables in the oven and finish us off with some roasted vegetables. But I just wanted to try this by itself real quick. So I'm going to be right back as I cut off a piece, because I don't think you need to see me do that. And I'll show you the bite. So here's our bite. Let's give it a try. That is really good. I wasn't too sure about the sauce because normally like a mustard sauce is not my favorite, but the mustard adds a nice tang to the sauce. If I had made it with regular cream, I don't know, honestly, but I love it the way I made it. I think this one, I'm going to give it a 10. Honestly, I'm going to give it a 10. The ingredients were easy to find. I had to buy like fresh basil, but for the most part, I pretty much had everything on hand. And if I didn't like the heavy cream, that's something that I will use super quickly and easily. I normally don't try to keep it in the fridge because I know it's like not the best for you, but I love it. So I'm not mad that I bought it. And this one was easy. It really was hands-on with the sauce, but the pork chops are hands-off. Yes, you marinated them or let them sit in the fridge, like with the dry, with the salt and pepper on them, but that's fine. That's like no work at all. The sauce, you saw us put that together. That was really easy, and it tastes delicious. So I have no complaints about this one. I really liked it. The only thing that I think might put some people off of it is using the vermouth, but you can use a dry white wine instead. But since we have vermouth from this other recipes in this cookbook, we went with the vermouth. I loved it. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think this gets a 10 out of 10. I've learned how to make a new sauce. I never would have put mustard in cream sauce like that. So I'm excited. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.